Welcome to another Advanced Manufacturing Media webinar. Our topic is Benefits and Best Practices, Integrating ERP and PLM. Hi, I'm Jim Sawyer, Executive Editor of Manufacturing Engineering Magazine, which is part of SME's Advanced Manufacturing Media. Before we begin, I'd like to provide some background on what we will be doing today. Our sponsor, Epicor Software Corporation, has a goal of delivering world-class software and innovative technologies with global infrastructure to support emerging businesses, regional corporations, and global enterprises. It serves more than 20,000 customers in over 150 countries and has 40 years of experience in delivering innovative, award-winning solutions. This webinar will focus on the main benefits of ERP and PLM integration, review a number of process and organizational considerations you need to keep in mind, and highlight some of the best practices for integrating ERP and PLM. You will be able to ask questions during the presentation using the Q&A box that appears at the right side of your screen. The questions will be answered at the conclusion of the presentation. If time runs out before we can get to all the questions, we will make sure the answers are emailed to you. If you experience any difficulty seeing or hearing this live presentation, please let us know via the Q&A app. Also, if you have questions about any other aspects of our webinars, please email me at jsawyer@sme.org. Kathy Poindexter, our presenter, is Product Marketing Manager, Epicor Software Corporation. She joined Epicor in 2010, bringing more than 25 years' experience in the electronics and high-tech and aerospace and defense industries, as well as implementation consulting and product marketing for ERP. In her current position, Poindexter is responsible for leading and developing Epicor's initiatives in the growing and dynamic ETO and project manufacturing market sector. Now, here is Kathy Poindexter.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me today for today's webinar on the benefits and best practices for integrating ERP and PLM. In today's fiercely competitive environment, manufacturing now requires ERP and PLM to play an important and complementary role to deliver world-class and innovative products. In many manufacturing organizations, the sheer number of people, departments, locations, and systems involved in the engineering workflow can lead to natural disconnects in processes and information flow between typically siloed systems. In these cases, companies need to rely on technology to bridge these gaps and enhance manufacturers' performance in both product innovation and business execution. This webinar will focus on the main benefits of ERP and PLM integration and review a number of process and organizational considerations you need to keep in mind, as well as highlighting some of the best practices. So today I will be discussing the roles of ERP and PLM in a manufacturing company, some of the benefits of integrating the two systems, the best practices that will help you deal with things that will enable your company to develop and deliver innovative and profitable products. And there will be some time, as Jim mentioned, at the end to address any questions that may come up. So first I would like to focus on the roles of ERP versus PLM. In my experience at companies who have both PLM and ERP or are in the process of implementing one or both of these systems, there's often a misconception of the purpose and understanding of the role of each system. At one engineer-to-order manufacturer of high-tech equipment I worked at, the engineering organization thought the whole company could run on the PLM system, whereas the production side couldn't understand why you needed anything beyond their ERP system. but that perhaps the PLM might be a good place to store documents. With those kinds of misconceptions, it is no wonder that getting the two groups to sit down to discuss how to integrate the two systems was very challenging. So to start out today's webcast, I would like to first make sure everyone has an understanding of the purpose and roles ERP and PLM systems play within a manufacturing company. So what exactly is PLM? According to Wikipedia, PLM is the process of managing the entire life cycle of a product from inception through engineering design and manufacture, all the way to service and disposal of the manufactured product. PLM integrates people, data, processes, and business systems and provides a product information backbone for companies and their extended enterprise and partners. Whereas also, according to Wikipedia, ERP provides an integrated view of core business processes, often in real time using common databases maintained by a database management system. ERP systems track business resources, cash, raw materials, production capacity, and the status of business commitments, orders, purchase orders, and payroll. The applications that make up the system share data across the various departments: manufacturing, purchasing, sales, and accounting. ERP facilitates information flow between all business functions and manages connections to outside stakeholders. So one of the simplest definitions I have found is PLM manages the virtual product and ERP manages the physical product. The virtual product must always match the physical product, and thus the two must be seamlessly connected. This requires integrated systems that include sophisticated configuration management tools to accommodate changes and updates. There is a historical tension between a manufacturing company's need to innovate and its need to produce. Fostering innovation is not possible within the rigor of production demands, and successful production practices are not possible within the highly flexible framework of good innovation. So how do you balance the need to innovate and produce? And this has been studied and analyzed over the years. The conclusions of the studies are that the most highly successful companies in the areas of both innovation and production are the companies that embrace both sides of that coin, fostering a culture of innovation while observing the required rigor within the production framework. When this is understood, it becomes more clear why PLM and ERP systems are both needed and that they each support different corporate needs. It is these very differences that show it is important to understand that systems designed to manage your production activities with rigor and structure could not be manipulated to become the flexible systems needed to foster innovation. But it's also a balancing act. You put PLM and ERP next to each other in a Google search, and you'll discover a seemingly endless archive of definitions, essays by industry experts, and debates assuring you that the more digging you'll be allowed into the inner circle of combined product lifecycle management and ERP wisdom, the more that you'll find that the truth is really that understanding the relationship between PLM and ERP is a bit like understanding the relationship of peanut butter and jelly. They go together well, but they aren't substitutes for each other. It is a balancing act where each system needs to be utilized for its purpose, with information flowing between the two systems. But there are also areas where both systems provide capabilities that are critical to each system and are needed in order to provide the functionality and the data that users require, such as part records, bills of material, bills of operations, and engineering change management. So these areas of overlapping functionality and requirements need to be managed very carefully, so that you can ensure that you get the maximum benefits out of both your ERP and PLM systems, and to get the most out of your integration between the two systems. So you need to be able to choose the right tools, because sometimes the lines are very blurred. Given the complex nature of keeping PLM and ERP synchronized at all times, we must decide which tools are best suited to this. ERP tools tend to be very transaction-oriented. Their goal is to move a product from one step to another until it's complete and out the door. ERP systems must keep track of part inventories, resources needed to manufacture, available tools and processes, along with the cost and scheduling of all activities. ERP tools are great at making sure all the steps for manufacturing happen on time and under budget. PLM, on the other hand, is usually tied to 3D CAD models and accommodate changes, options, modifications, and frequent updates to be able to model parts and products. PLM is also a very visual environment, with many people looking at models, exchanging ideas, and viewing the product as it's going through the design process. PLM is also very collaborative. A group of people must often review any updates or changes as they happen. Engineering review often happens across the globe and around the clock, as many engineers and designers are involved. Understanding changes requires sophisticated visualization tools that allow models, parts, documents, and other information to be shared in real time. PLM also manages changes and links to CAD files, assemblies, documents, test data, software, EDA files, and so much more. PLM must always provide an updated view of the as planned, as designed, as manufactured, and as maintained bills of material, and other views of the product information. Product information must also be connected to the product requirement documents, so there's always a link to the original specifications. When we look at the tools needed to manage all the permutations of products throughout the product lifecycle, it's clear that PLM is much more suited to this task. And PLM can always track the changes to the products out in the field as well, and then easily use that information to start creating the next version of the product. But ERP needs this information as well in order to support after-sales service and warranty requirements. So where does PLM stop and ERP begin? As a manufacturer, you have to make some decisions. You have to develop a strategy about which system will address which process. Again, it can be a combination. From a PLM or ERP vendor perspective, there are no boundaries, and I'm not suggesting some industry standard footprints of each solution. But for an individual implementation, and in some processes you have two tools that can do the job, you have to pick. Another key question you need to answer is who owns the data? There's always a big argument where the data should be mastered and who should own it. The truth is ultimately the company owns the data. Ownership changes as the product moves from one state to the next. While the product is in design, the data should be owned by the PLM system. While the data is being manufactured, the data is owned by ERP. And then once the product is out the door and in the field, it is owned by the service and warranty group, and typically resides within ERP system, but may also reside in PLM. It does not really matter who owns the data as long as it's the most up-to-date version and is always tracked very carefully in PLM, and the data needed is always in sync through integration in both systems. So let's start at the beginning. To me, it makes sense for most businesses to carefully master their data in PLM at the beginning of the product lifecycle. PLM is where the product starts, and any mistakes made there will eventually find their way into ERP. Over the years, many companies have gotten used to fixing problems with unclear, incomplete, or incorrect information coming from ineffective PLM systems during the manufacturing process. This is not how you want to do business. So now I'd like to discuss some of the key benefits of integrating your ERP and PLM. Although most ERP and PLM solutions are highly effective, using them separately could have a crippling effect on organizations. On the other side, the integration of PLM and ERP technologies offer distinct strengths that can greatly improve your ability to facilitate enterprise-wide collaboration, streamline operations, develop better products, and enable a series of processes to access, integrate, and exploit the knowledge of each system. And the result? Your organization will be able to overcome challenges and achieve its maximum potential to succeed in today's global market. A well-executed integration will deliver an end-to-end solution that can be used to effectively manage product development and execution, turning these two distinct areas into interconnected activities. And as a result, you'll be able to develop new, more highly differentiated products while improving quality and mitigating costs. And workflows don't stop at system boundaries when you integrate your PLM and ERP. By extending the integrated information landscape to also include ERP by integrating PLM with your ERP, it means that business processes and mindsets must be taken into account that may be quite different from what is available or planned on just the PLM or the ERP side. And this obviously will add to the complexity. And that is at least one of the primary reasons why PLM and ERP integration is usually regarded as being difficult. Just like the introduction of a PLM system, integrating that system with ERP requires a lot of thought. One of the considerations to be kept in mind is the extent to which the ERP side requirements may have an influence on how data models or business processes need to be designed on the PLM side. The impact can be minimal or it can be extensive. Either way, it needs to be looked at very closely. Sometimes you almost wonder if it's one of the chicken and egg dilemmas. Which one comes first? At the next level, integrating product lifecycle management into ERP systems will enable improved collaboration between customer, sales, and engineering in the quotation process. Shorten time to market through a more integrated process from engineering to delivery. Reduce cycle time and errors due to manual transfer of data between the PLM and ERP systems. And improve communication and reduce misunderstandings between engineering and manufacturing, purchasing, sales, and service. So the potential benefits of integration come as much from its prevention of miscommunication as they do from its mutual abilities. First, because each system informs the other of its weaknesses instead of trying to hide them. Accommodating and adjusting become far easier and help to avoid hiccups in planning or oversight in design. And secondly, each system benefits from faster feedback from the other, creating a perpetual loop that includes design, production, evaluation, and service or quality, and ultimately contributes to a better end product. So now let's focus on best practices for data integration and flow between ERP and PLM, as well as best practices to deal with the processes that enable your company to develop and deliver those innovative and profitable products using those integrated systems. At this point, I want to move on from the discussion of the benefits of integrating PLM and ERP, and right now, we're going to assume that we do have both a PLM and ERP system in place. What are the options to integrate these systems? We've already said that there's a lot of efficiency of integrating, but each proposed option has its pluses and minuses. Well, obviously, you could just do no integration. Manual. The integration is manual. It's not systemic. People do it. This is a very simple option. Full stop. Wait a minute, let's think about this. You think PLM plus ERP is too complex or too expensive. You think people are a cheaper option, and they can move data between two systems by hand with double entry. Not a bad one until your designers are waiting for a new part number from ERP for a couple of days, or maybe longer, or your manufacturing planning people get their engineering bill of material once in a while, or doubling the chance of data entry errors. So moving on to, you might do batch integration. This, in my view, is the most widely used type of integration. You understand that to enter information twice or even more in all systems is beyond what you are ready to do in the 21st century. So your decision is to push information between both systems. It may happen in both directions, but in many cases, I've seen a push just of the bill of material from your PDM or PLM system to ERP, and it is probably the option that most companies might implement. You also might have direct integration, and it's the next stop after batch integration. Sometimes it comes after your experience with your batch processes. You discover that some business logic around batch processes is a good idea. You want to have some sort of validation, or you might want to prompt users for a question before you move on in the integration process. This is a time when you hire programmers or a service company to develop the integration between your PLM and your ERP. And obviously some PLM and ERP vendors offer a prepackaged integration, as we do. And certainly, even with a prepackaged integration or out-of-the-box integration, they'll never work without some tuning, some configuration, and some additional customization to meet your very specific business needs, the type of product you produce, the type of manufacturing style you have. You may be engineer to order. You may be build to order. You may be configure to order. Those are all going to affect what level of integration and how much validation and Q&A you might have. And finally, middleware is a very popular option. And if you need to implement a number of integrations for your enterprise, you can just do that integration using middleware, and you're done. And that integration is typically used when you want more complex business rules. And that is often the type of integration offered by your vendors. So it gives you a level to handle more complex integrations, more validations, moving a lot of different data back and forth between the two systems and make sure it's kept in sync. So what are some of the areas to consider for integration? You need to consider some of these topics. You need to be concerned about the part item map, a transfer to ERP, that lifecycle integration and attribute mappings. You need to worry about your bill of material and engineering change order transfer. You need to worry about multi-organization part and bill of material transfer. And the difference between your bill of materials and be able to analyze that. And what kind of ERP data access and viewing you need to have from within your PLM so your engineers can see data within the PLM without having to go into the ERP system, as well as your ERP part transfer back to PLM. What attributes need to be transferred? So PLM and ERP integration allows for the automated release of the engineering BOM to the manufacturing or production BOMs, thereby enabling the design anywhere and build anywhere paradigm. So what about ERP and PLM synchronization? Often in a mature organization, PLM and ERP are synced in real time. While PLM help in designing and releasing the product, ERP helps in planning how the product will be manufactured and sold, as I mentioned earlier. So a real-time sync is important to track any changes that may have happened to the product. Organizations that have synchronized PLM and ERP are better off than their counterpart in many ways. You might expect to see decreased production scrap, more effective inventory tracking, improvement in time to market with better cost analysis. So implementation of both ERP and PLM, it is a costly endeavor. And organizations are often tempted to leave out PLM and only implement ERP. But it's important to note that though PLM and ERP both have an important position in the manufacturing world, organizations should not carry it away and implement more than what is necessary for your particular business environment. And I've also seen PLM and ERP integrations fail in some cases because it relies too much on old and outdated integration principles. And these principles rely on data ownership and the business of protecting data in a boundary of enterprise applications and departmental silos. Kind of going back to that story, where I used to work, where, the engineering group and the production group, they just didn't understand the needs that each group had of what data they needed to see. So it's very helpful to make sure that this process is worked together and not in a silo, that engineering is involved in the ERP implementation, the production people are involved in the PLM implementation. And it will also help to transition from data ownership to data publishing. In an organization whose model is one of data ownership, PLM and ERP and the different parts of the organization each try to assert themselves as the exclusive providers of data that drives company decision-making, and they don't want to reveal their findings to the other. In the data publishing model, PLM and ERP operate independently but constantly inform, being integrated with each other by publishing their findings in a collaborative manner. And after you've accomplished the data publishing concept, it will simplify the business logic and will help to establish a more reliable data integration and synchronization mechanism. So running a business with solely an ERP system, has a lot of risks, and it could result in a gap in the manufacturing process. Companies with only an ERP system in place often struggle to organize one of the most important parts of the business, the product record. Additionally, the resulting scrap and rework around the product and the shop floor is often quite costly. By implementing a PLM system beforehand, an organization might be more confident with the product information and that it's being accurately managed and the ERP system is working with effective data. And because ERP systems are designed to read the bill of material for transaction purposes, most lack effective change functionality, though some have a good deal of change functionality. And that's where you need to make those decisions of where to manage that activity. But they may not be conducted in departmental collaboration around the product record, which is inherent to PLM systems. Change history documentation is vital to understanding which change has occurred and when that change went into effect or might need to go into effect in the future. Engineering change departments also require accurate change history to track design changes and collaborate around the product data. So ultimately, an organization that implements ERP system without a complementary PLM system risks mismanaging product changes and conducting inaccurate financial planning. An organization utilizing less robust solutions like Excel to manage BOMs and changes also put a company at risk for costly errors. You need to use the right tool for what you're trying to accomplish. So, though there is still debate about the need to integrate PLM and ERP, there's far more heated discussion about the best way to execute integration. Efficiency-minded manufacturers view ERP as the foundation upon which other systems like PLM can stand, but cannot conceive of the reverse, while engineers fail to understand how the means of production can exist without a system to inform them of the product data. While there are companies that use ERP alone or both systems separately, some suggest that PLM must be the first step to achieving successful integration. Establishing your manufacturing process with an effective PLM system before integrating with a compatible ERP system. It could help minimize organizational inefficiencies and transition costs, as well as optimize the capabilities of each system across the entire organization. So, although there are a number of different methods and best practices around implementing an integrated PLM and ERP system, quite often an ERP system is already in place. And due to various factors, including company growth, expanded or more complex product mix, or the desire for process or productivity improvements, a PLM system is added after the ERP system has already been in place. Tasks that might better be suited to being handled in a PLM system may already be firmly entrenched in the ERP system. One methodology you may want to take is what we call the evolutionary approach. As you move through these steps, integration between the PLM and ERP system could also be part of that evolutionary process. So a step-by-step model to follow for your evolutionary path to PLM, fully integrated with your ERP, the first step is to get your product data backbone in place. And second is to get your product lifecycle management, your hands around that. And final step might be to getting to a level of collaborative PLM. So let's now take a look a little deeper at each of these steps. product data backbone is the foundation that allows you to store, retrieve, manage, and control all of your important product-related data and documents in a single vault from the beginning to the end of your product lifecycle. The product data backbone allows you to build a sustainable and future-proof foundation for the implementation of your PLM processes, such as automated engineering change management, bills of operations, and other processes. Your CAD data management and product data management are crucial to your ability to securely manage and control your product lifecycle data throughout your entire enterprise. In most manufacturing companies, part master data, bill of material, and technical drawings form the backbone of product lifecycle management. This data and these documents drive manufacturing and, in later stages, service and maintenance and even warranty. Once implemented, you'll be able to automatically and securely transfer the bill of material from engineering to manufacturing to your ERP, have one common database to reuse for drawings, bills of material, product descriptions for similar products and comparable projects, and plus prevent the cost-intensive and repeated design of parts and components. And additionally, there are many other benefits, including the reduction of administrative expenses and reducing turnaround times in development and engineering. So the implementation of the product data backbone, is a two-phase approach. It's according to your company's priority. Either you can start and implement your CAD data management and product data management and proceed to phase two with the technical document management, or you can implement them the other way around. Both ways are viable and both ways can work. So what are some of the typical product data management functions? PDM includes everything from a centralized electronic vault and version and revision control. It has the ability to classify your products and manage your part master data, bills of material, as well as drawing administration. You can view the where used list and activity reports and change journals. You can have multi-MCAD and multi-ECAD integration. Flexible authorization concept around your roles, your workflows by a single user, or it might be set up by a user group. And integration with your typical Office products of Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and even Outlook. Technical document management for manufacturing engineering is really an inherent part of your products and therefore part of your PLM process. This makes it crucial to have a single solution to classify and store every document only once and manage them along with your product data or project documentation by creating a digital lifecycle file that contains all the data for a particular product and accompanies it through its entire lifecycle. This means it will always have the right documents at the right time, regardless of the origin of the documents themselves. So once implemented, you gain full visibility and transparency regarding the relationship. For instance, between the part master data of a component or an assembly and technical documents such as manuals, contracts, specifications, plus business data such as correspondence and meeting minutes. In addition, you will improve collaboration with your service employees, customers, and operators by providing them with exactly the lifecycle files or machine files they want and need, such as digitized photographs, video, audio recordings, or processor software for controlling your machine components. So some of the typical data management functions include document storage in the same electronic vault as you had in PDM, with a relationship between documents and parts. It supports classification and workflow on complex, multi-level document structures and provides easy archiving and retrieval. It makes you more efficient with documents stored only once to avoid data overloads and duplications. And duplications can often cause things being out of sync, where you have two documents. They're one showing erroneous information, one showing the accurate information. And those where used lists and activity reports, as well as traceability for compliance. And you do have those flexible authorizations for your roles and workflows, as well as supports transmittals for external processing and integration with, once again, your Office products, as well as web reports. Or it might be integrated as well with your MES system. So step 2, you need to be, you have your next step is implementing your full product lifecycle management so that you're then moving towards a fully collaborative PLM system. Being able to control and automate your product lifecycle process can have a direct and positive impact throughout your organization. PLM allows you to integrate your task management and your product data in order to retrieve all data and documents that are relevant to a process or a project or a product from a single source. Be able to automate your notifications and escalation management and risk management, which can significantly reduce processing times and ensure a better and more reliable coordination of ongoing processes and projects. And information on the current status of a project or process is always just one click away. This probably all sounds familiar. If you're working on a development project and you need to make short notice changes, manually coordinating the change process could just simply take too long. This is where the task file for the change process comes into play. It helps you overcome this challenge by automating the PLM process for you. The system will automatically alert you of deviations, therefore allowing you to stay on top of the change status at all times. And even better, it gives you the ability to automate parts of the process, such as sending out documentation or creating an impact matrix, so that you can determine the impact of the change, the costs, where you need to cut it in, where you are from your material. Do you want to run out a particular piece of material because that's still acceptable before you put in the new material that you're now going to be purchasing because maybe it was less expensive or your vendor has made an improvement that'll make it a better product. So what are some of those typical PLM functions? That's where you get into project and task file management and escalation management, your engineering change process. And that can be started from the ERP or the PLM side. And typically, those processes are very much jointly managed in the two systems and need to be kept constantly in sync. Support for mechatronic process management across departments, as well as your initial design release and your bill of operations being added to your bill of material management process. And finally, step 3. Today it is commonplace for companies in many industries to have design and development teams distributed across multiple locations. Certainly that's the case with our company. Our design process is distributed across the globe. Collaborated PLM supports the coordination and synchronization of the development work of globally dispersed teams. By implementing collaborative PLM, companies will enjoy the benefits of rapid access to CAD data from remote locations, powered by an infrastructure that delivers identical working conditions across all sites, even if transmission bandwidths are suboptimal in some locations. Colleagues on opposite sides of the world get to work together in real time on the same data and documents. And data backup, which allows the satellite offices to continue working smoothly even if the central PLM server fails or they lose connections. And once disaster recovery is complete, the replicated data can be restored to that affected location. So some typical functions of collaborative PLM include automatic synchronization of local databases with significantly faster access to data and documents across the globe. Supports coordination of differentiated access rights to CAD models and documents depending on release status and location. And it could be by the employee user type. What are they allowed to see? What are they allowed to change? It significantly reduces the load on your IT systems. And users can continue to work even if network connections between sites fail, with automatic replication after network breakdown. and it has the maximum protection against data loss and supports global environments with multilingual capabilities. So, in conclusion, so what are some of the results that we've seen with our customers that have implemented an integrated ERP and PLM system? One of our customers, who's a leading designer and manufacturer of interior modifications for commercial aircraft, and that's an industry that very commonly uses an integrated PLM and ERP system, they stated that their customers have benefited via lower cost and faster deliveries, which has resulted in additional customer demand. Who wouldn't want higher customer demand? So additionally, they found that one of their favorite hidden values came from the total integration. So for example, when an order comes in, the bill of material is pushed to the ERP engineering workbench using PLM. Attached with the bill of material and parts are engineering documents such as CAD drawing and reference notes, which the shop floor can now view from their manufacturing execution system, instead of having to use other isolated resources to get the information. This can cure the abrupt project handoff to operations and creates a seamless flow of information between engineering and production. So what were some of the benefits that they achieved by implementing an integrated and PLM system? They had achieved superior collaboration by streamlining the flow of information between the engineer and their shop floor operators. They implemented new digital archive to locate CAD drawing for reusable components, making it easier and faster. They increased the speed at which product goes from design to prototype to finished goods, and all with improved and better quality. And finally, they turned customer service into a competitive advantage by meeting customer demand faster and easier. And it's not just about what our customers saw, but according to a recent study by Aberdeen Group, there are many benefits that can be seen with the interoperability across PLM and ERP. At the enterprise level, they found improved performances in new product introduction, enterprise quality management, improved performance in operational efficiency. And one of the critical areas where the use of an integrated ERP and PLM can clearly impact operational efficiencies is engineering change control. Just think of the cost savings and improvements to meeting schedule that can be gained if you could almost cut in half the number of hours to release an engineering change to production. And for the manufacturing executive, there was improved access to critical design or recipe, formulation, packaging, quality, and process data on the shop floor, communication and collaboration with design and engineering, and visualization and modeling right at the shop floor. For the engineering executive, they found they had less time spent re-engineering products so that fewer problems get downstream, resulting in fewer engineering change orders. More flexibility in design and cost targets due to expert manufacturing feedback on how to reduce costs and increase quality, that collaborative effort. With higher likelihood for compliance with development budget due to higher likelihood to pass prototype and quality tests the first time because of earlier validation with the manufacturing experts. And finally, the IT executive reported the elimination of organizational silos across manufacturing and engineering IT, cost reduction for maintaining multiple and disparate systems, as well as simpler orchestration of business processes that span design, make, and deliver. So ERP systems and PLM systems have distinct functionalities, which when used together, give an organization complete control over its manufacturing processes. As I've said, though, these tools are not interchangeable. An ERP system helps a company manage those transactional activities around building a product, while PLM systems tell the story of a product at a specific point in time and the history of the product record. Establishing your manufacturing process with an effective PLM system and integrating with a compatible ERP system will minimize organizational inefficiency and transition costs, as well as optimize the capabilities of each system across the organization. So, given the complexity in today's manufacturing environment, manufacturers are facing many challenges. One of the largest is internal silos between business groups, and one of the most detrimental can be between product development and operations. However, in this challenging environment, there are so many opportunities for improvement. So to address these pressures and help capture some of this opportunity, the best in class are creating a collaborative enterprise that strives for operational excellence across development and manufacturing. Those companies looking to bridge the gap between product development and operations should consider the following. Seize the opportunities to foster collaboration and ideation. Understand the levers in your organization and put together a long-term vision. This is the first step all companies need to take to break down silos throughout the company. Implement a formal change management process with linked bill of materials. Best-in-class companies understand the importance of having formalized process to request, approve, and communicate changes across your entire value chain. That's not just within your four walls, but outside your four walls with your entire supply chain. Compliance concerns and product failures often occur when someone within the value chain makes a change without understanding the business impact. You need to focus on design for manufacturability to reduce risk in the new product introduction process. And best-in-class lead the way when it comes to utilizing design for manufacturing to advance product development. This builds knowledge around the issues that can arise during manufacturing and allows them to be detected earlier, and as a result, avoid rework. And finally, connect your enterprise systems, ERP and PLM, and form strategic relationships between operations, engineering, IT, and your service provider. These connections can help shape the vision and execution for business process interoperability and ensure that critical information is available to all groups for effective decision-making. So I'd just like to do a little brief overview of Epicor. A little bit of this was mentioned earlier. But we have over 20,000 customers in 150 countries, served by over 3,900 employees, and we're quickly approaching $1 billion in revenue. We cover the complete value chain from supply to demand, including an integrated PLM and ERP system. We enable business with the ability to manage global operations, increase employee productivity, adapt to change, and help you gain the key insights you need to make intelligent decisions to grow your business. Well, I appreciate your attention today, and we'd now like to open it up to some questions.
Hi, Kathy. This is Jim Sawyer joining you again, and I'd like to thank you for making highly understandable what might seem to be a very daunting topic. We have received some questions. I know we're getting near the top of the hour, but if our audience can stay with us, we can go beyond that time period into the next hour, and we will try to get to as many of these questions as possible. If we can't, as we said earlier, we will email the questions to our friends at Epicor, and they'll email answers to our audience. So we will start here. Very interesting question. Are case studies available with the specifics of previous state ERP PLM implementation and the resulting future state?
Absolutely, there are case studies available. I did a few quotes from one of our customers, and we have several of those available. And you'll also find them out, if you do an internet search of, how other companies have, what they've found. There's a lot of great information out there. But we can certainly provide you with, some case studies to help you on your path.
Should the audience contact you directly, Kathy, or Epicor, or are these case studies available on your website?
Some of them are available on our website, and we're actually in the process of developing some additional ones right now. So certainly look at our website, but also feel free to contact me, and I have my contact information up on the screen right now.
Very good. Interesting question again. How much does it cost to integrate both PLM and ERP?
Well, that's one of those great questions, and there's absolutely no set answer. As I mentioned, there's a lot of different levels of integration, and there's also, as I talked about, the evolutionary path where you may embark upon it, slowly and integrate just certain pieces along that path. So, it also depends on the type of integration you choose to use. And certainly if your ERP vendor and your PLM system come, with some prepackaged integration, as ours does, that will give you a start and will certainly save you costs if you have that starting point. And it typically has the key areas. So I can't really give you a cost. We'd have to look at your specific situation and your type of company and how you do business.
All right. We have received a number of questions as to whether or not this presentation will be available in an archived or recorded version. Yes, it will, beginning at about 4 p.m. this afternoon Eastern Time, and folks can reach that using the same link they joined to meet with us about an hour ago. So I just wanted to get that in there. Now we'll return to the really important questions, and that is, where do you see MES fitting in?
Yeah, absolutely. I briefly mentioned that today, and that's another whole big subject. But, absolutely, I'm starting to see more and more often now where MES, PLM, and ERP are all integrated together. Because certainly things coming from an MES system, and this could be your information that might be being manually entered by your employees through a more, manual process where the employee would enter how much time they're spending on something, might enter, scrap information, quality concerns, or it might be where you've actually, you've embraced the Internet of Things, where your machines are talking to each other. Your machines are talking to your ERP system. It can be talking to your PLM system. So it runs the whole gamut. So absolutely, MES is becoming a more and more important part. And like I said, certainly as the Internet of Things has come into play, where everything and everyone is connected now. So the key data that would be coming, the key performance indicators coming perhaps directly from your equipment, what your throughput, what your yield is, how many items are being scrapped, what types of material problems you have, where you may have a machine down. You may have developed some of your own equipment, so that information will be coming in to your PLM so that you can better design your own equipment as well.
Very good. Here's a question. I think you touched on this during the presentation, but one of our attendees asks, where do you draw a line between PLM and ERP? Can a process that is transactional followed in ERP be managed by PLM?
Okay, so I think if I'm understanding it, that your transactional processes that are going on in ERP, certainly you might be, it depends on where you're drawing the lines between the two systems. You might be entering information about, like you might need to replace a piece of material, literally on the fly out on the shop floor. You might have some interchangeable parts. So you may be consistently doing that. But what the PLM system and the design is called out is a particular component, a particular part. But what's happening on the manufacturing floor is that you're almost always using the substitute. So when you're using that substitute, that's going into the ERP system. So that type of transactional information, as an example, will be going back to the actual PLM system, so that you're getting the information back to engineering. That component is almost always being replaced by its alternate. So they can then look at perhaps updating the engineering bill of material to make that the primary and the other part the secondary that you might choose. So there's just an example. So absolutely the transactional data can flow into the PLM.
Kathy, is it wise to have and here's the bill of materials coming up again, an EBOM and integrated BOM and also an MBOM? Should there only be the two bills of materials, EBOM and MBOM?
Well, what I often find is you could have, some companies keep it to just the engineering and the kind of what your manufactured bill of materials. So, but you also may have your manufactured bill of material could be how you intend to manufacture it. So it's how you've engineered it, how you intend to manufacture it, where you may actually, two items may be separate engineering bills, but for the ease of manufacture, you're actually going to make one of them a phantom of the other, so to speak, in a manufacturing environment, and you're going to build it all at once, because that's what makes the most sense. So you also may have your as-built, because as I mentioned, something may change during the manufacturing process that was not how you put it out there in the beginning. You may have to have run it on a different machine. You may have had to use a different tool. You had to use a different part because you had a shortage and you used an alternate. And you may have had to come up with that alternate at the last minute. It wasn't even previously specified. And then you may also have an as-maintained bill of material, where you've actually, say, in an industrial machinery environment or in aircraft, you're maintaining that item out in the field, and you may have to do some workarounds, or you may have to use, once again, different material or do things a little differently. So you may need to capture that. So it's really wise to maintain all of those, and which system where they're maintained can vary. I often see the as-maintained more typically on the ERP side, because they need to act on service orders, warranty actions, but I've also seen it in PLM, but the integration is critical there.
Okay. Here's a question about the history of PLM and ERP integration. What industries have historically integrated these two solutions?
PLM started in the technology sector and was being used by highly regulated industries such as aerospace, electronics and high tech, medical device, and the automotive industries. Those industries where, if something goes wrong, somebody could get hurt. So that's kind of where it kind of started. But it's become increasingly widespread in such industry as apparel, accessories, footwear, and other consumer goods manufacturers. And any business that is a complex, documentation-intensive industry, or might have a chaotic supply chain, or is engineering-intensive business, can really use PLM to facilitate design and that transparency that you need to keep that your innovation and producing the best product with the highest value at the lowest cost with the best quality.
Very good. We are getting past the top of the hour, and so we will wrap up with this one last question, and we will send out responses to any of the unanswered questions at a later date. But right now, the question before us is, what are some of the risks of implementing an ERP solution without PLM?
Okay, So running a business with solely an ERP system, it can result in a gap in the manufacturing process. And I think companies with only an ERP system in place might struggle to organize one of their most important parts of the business, and that's the product record. So additionally, the resulting scrap and rework around the product, out on the shop floor, it's really a very costly problem. So, I think that by implementing a PLM system beforehand, an organization can be confident that the product information is being accurately managed, and the ERP system is working with effective and accurate and timely data. But, also because ERP systems are designed to read the bill of material for transactional purposes only, some may lack effective change functionality and are not conducive to departmental collaboration around the product record. So change history documentation is really vital to understanding what change has occurred, when the change went into effect, or when it needs to go into effect. And the engineering departments also require accurate change history information to track design changes and collaborate around that product data to be more innovative, to maybe improve the product. And ultimately, that the organization that implements an ERP system without a complementary PLM really risks that mismanagement of those product changes. And, we're talking, bills of material and parts and stuff, but, there's really a financial impact. You need to do proper financial planning. What are the costs going to be to produce that product? You need to make sure you're selling it for the right price so you're making a profit. Doesn't do much good to be selling a whole bunch of something if you're losing money on every single one.
Right.
So organizations using less robust solutions, I mentioned before, like Excel, and unfortunately, I do see this, a little more commonly than I would like, to manage their bill of materials. That's not what Excel was meant for. It's a very powerful tool, but not for managing a bill of material. And it doesn't have good change management, versioning control, too easy for people to just go in, change things, and no one gets notified. So you're going to put your company at big risk for costly errors that could ultimately lose customers because you're not producing the product that they need.
Kathy, this bill of materials issue is one of great interest, and another question just snuck in that's quite interesting, and that is, where should the manufacturing bill of materials live, with PLM or with ERP?
I've seen it really handled both ways. I probably more typically see it on the ERP side because quite often the manufacturing engineering organization actually falls under the operations or production group. So they tend to radiate towards the system they're more familiar with working in. Not saying it can't be managed in PLM, and certainly I've seen companies where that's happened, and it can work both ways. There's not like one hard and fast rule. But I've found that quite often I see it perhaps working better living in the ERP system, but it's constantly feeding back to the PLM system because the MBOM will tie into also your bill of operations, some call it, or your routings, or your work instructions, and they quite often live within ERP.
All right. Well, we will wrap up our answers at that point, and I would like to repeat that this entire webinar will be available for replay today by about 4 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time, and you and your colleagues can access it then or later by using the same sign-in link you used about an hour ago to join us. As Kathy has shown, there are a lot of benefits to integrating PLM and ERP and some innovative ways to use the integrated solution. SME and Advanced Manufacturing Media also have a host of ways to keep you in touch with the developments in manufacturing solutions and technology. For instance, the September issue of Manufacturing Engineering takes a look at how the Internet of Things is changing PLM. Our October issue will include our annual Software Special section. In addition, you can join us at a number of shows where you can experience live equipment demonstrations and find cost-saving solutions. Among these are the Canadian Manufacturing and Technology Show next week, September 28th through October 1st in Mississauga, Ontario, South Tech, which will be held October 27th through 29th in Charlotte, North Carolina, and FabTech 2015, which is being held November 9th through 12th in Chicago. Thanks for joining us for this Advanced Manufacturing Media webinar. We hope you found it informative.